Okay, welcome everyone. So, birthdays, right? We usually think, pure joy, celebration, moments of laughter, feeling totally safe. But what happens when that feeling just shatters? Today we're going to look at some, truly disturbing accounts. Stories where a celebration turned into something.
Yeah.
Something pretty sinister.
It is a stark contrast, isn't it? And these are real stories. They come from a YouTube channel that focuses on, unsettling true experiences. Our goal today is really to unpack these narratives to kind of see how quickly that feeling of safety can just evaporate and, what patterns maybe emerge when horror becomes real life.
Absolutely. So let's dive in. First story, we're calling it The Uninvited Guest. It's Ryan's 21st birthday. So picture this, surprise party, the host parents are away, house is packed. Friends of friends, you know how it goes. And the host, they're trying to be aware, keep an eye on things amidst all the chaos, offering cake, beers, mingling.
Yeah, and what's interesting right away is how that very chaos, the normalcy of a big party, can be the perfect cover. It kind of creates this collective blind spot, It really makes you wonder, how often do we just assume everyone present belongs, especially like in our own homes? We might overlook a threat right there.
You're totally right. And the host did actually notice a couple of guys who seemed a bit off. One had long blonde hair, wearing a football shirt, just kind of hanging out on the couch. And the other one, maybe a bit older looking, was sitting in, get this, the host's grandma's old rocking chair. Just sitting there. It was weird enough that the host actually whispered to Ryan, the birthday boy, those guys look kind of creepy or odd. Oh, and Ryan, probably caught up in the moment, just sort of laughed and agreed, yeah, totally, but didn't really think much of it. The party goes on. The guy in the rocking chair even, belts out a song really loudly at one point. The blonde guy sings something else. Everyone just kind of joins in. Mass confusion, maybe.
It speaks to that social assumption, doesn't it? That implicit trust we place in shared spaces. If someone's at the party, well, they must know someone. That whole hidden in plain sight thing, a stranger occupying your personal space for hours just because everyone assumes they're accounted for, it's deeply unsettling, a real vulnerability.
Yeah, and that vulnerability became terrifyingly clear later on. The party winds down, people leave. Eventually, it's just the host, Ryan, and their friend Sean left. They'd kind of dozed off in the living room, TV on low. And in that quiet, pre-dawn stillness, it hits the host. They sort of ask out loud, maybe half asleep, "Hey, who are those two guys? The ones in the living room all night?" Sean pipes up, says, "Oh, the blonde guy? Yeah, he's a friend of so-and-so." Okay, fine. But the guy in the rocking chair. Neither Ryan nor Sean knew him at all. And that's when the host's blood ran cold.
Wow, that must have been a terrifying moment, that shift, From random party guests to unidentified intruder in your own house after the fact. It just reframes the entire evening.
Totally. So the host grabs their phone, texts the main party group chat, just asks, "Hey, anyone know the older guy who's in the rocking chair?" And the replies start trickling in. Every single one. No idea, was never seen him, thought he was with you, it confirmed it, everyone just assumed he belonged. The realization hits like a ton of bricks. Some random creepy older dude snuck into my house, hid in plain sight for hours. Right. Suddenly the whole house feels wrong, unsafe, like they weren't alone. So very quietly, the host slips out of the living room toward the kitchen. The TV's the only light. They peek into this little hallway off the kitchen and just freeze.
Oh man, you can just imagine that feeling. Moving from the relative safety of the living room into the dark unknown of the hallway with that suspicion growing, it's pure primal fear.
Absolutely. They could see, they were pretty sure they could see something at the end of the hall. Took a few more steps, very slowly.
Yeah.
And it was definitely a person standing there. Yeah. And then they heard it from the end of the hall. A faint, low, cackling kind of laugh. Just soft, but chilling. Heart just drops. The host slowly backs away, gets back to the living room, shakes the others awake, whispering frantically, "There's someone else in the house," and they quietly dial 911.
That laugh, the cackling, it adds such a malevolent layer, doesn't it? It's not just trespassing, it feels like taunting. Psychological, that sound would just sear itself into your memory.
You wouldn't forget it. Yeah. So, as the host is still whispering on the phone with the 911 operator, explaining the situation,
what?
The unbelievable happens. The guy, the creepy guy from earlier, the one from the rocking chair, he suddenly just walks into the living room.
What? No way.
Yeah. He glances over at them, the three of them just sitting there totally stunned, walks right past them, and goes out the front door. Just leaves. They're frozen. Literally can't move, can't speak. The host manages to tell the operator, he just left. The intruder just walked out. Police come, check things out briefly. Nothing seems disturbed. But then they find it. In the hallway, leading right up to where he must have been standing. a trail of bloodstains on the carpet. Fresh blood. And then it just stops.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Needless to say, no sleep was had that night.
That unresolved ending. The stranger, the laugh, the blood that just stops, it leaves such a heavy sense of threat hanging in the air. It really forces you to confront that some dangers, some violations, they don't get neat explanations. They just leave questions and that awful feeling.
Okay, so, wow. From that kind of intimate home setting, let's shift gears. Different kind of gathering, different vulnerability. This next story, it happened at a first grade birthday party, held at a local bowling alley. And the account actually comes from the perspective of the birthday kid, who honestly was having a pretty miserable time. Bowling wasn't clicking, they got bored, started complaining, crying a bit.
Yeah.
First grade drama.
Right. And you immediately see this combination, right? Childhood innocence, obviously, but also that parental assumption of safety. It's a public place, it's a party, it feels supervised. But the layout of this place, with different rooms, maybe doors leading outside, it created an unexpected point of access. It just shows how vulnerability can exist even in places we think are totally safe.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So the kid's mom is distracted, talking with other parents. The kid, looking for something, anything else to do, wanders off. They find this back room, sectioned off for the party, full of snacks, sweets, sodas like hit heaven. But crucially, this room has a door leading directly outside to the back of the building. And that's where the danger was waiting. A man appears in the doorway, just stands there and tells the child, who's only 6 years old, "Hey, come outside, check something out." The kid, curious, just goes. The man kneels down, points to a truck parked nearby, engine running, and he says something like, "I've got the rest of the sweets and snacks in the back of my truck. Need some help getting them." Then offers a $20 reward if the kid helps him unload.
Ugh, it's just classic predatory behavior, isn't it? Grooming 101, using lures like sweets, money, things a child understands and desires. It completely bypasses their undeveloped sense of stranger danger. It preys on that inherent trust and curiosity. It's chillingly effective and just a horrible reminder of how predators operate.
Yeah. And the child actually remembered thinking how cool it would be to help, how jealous the other kids might be.
Yeah.
Innocent logic, right?
Yeah.
So they follow the man, climb up into the truck, see a big black plastic bag on the back seat. And the very next thing the child remembers is hearing this horrific, ear-piercing scream. It's their mom, screaming their name over and over. The kid just bolts, runs straight to their mom, who grabs them super tight. And just as she does, they hear the sound of tires skidding out, followed by a truck speeding away.
By the time anyone really registered what was happening, the truck was gone. Thank goodness the mom screamed when she did. That intervention was critical. But this story, I mean, it hammers home why that simple advice, don't talk to strangers, is something parents just have to, burn into their kids' minds. And it also raises that question for us adults too, right? How do we stay vigilant in seemingly safe public spaces without becoming paralyzed by fear? It's a tough balance, but this shows how fast things can go wrong.
Absolutely. The aftermath was chaotic. Mom in tears, scolding the child, obviously terrified, other parents, kids rushing out. It turned into a huge scene. The bowling alley actually had to shut down for the night. Party over. Police came, took descriptions, but the story ends with, unfortunately, nothing was ever heard as far as the police catching him. Just vanished. A terrifying glimpse of how quickly safety can dissolve and how some predators just disappear back into the woodwork. Okay, for our last story, we're going somewhere else entirely. Different setting, different kind of fear. This one involves a son's 12th birthday party. It's set in rural New Jersey in a backyard that actually backs up against woods on two sides. It gives it that rustic feel, but also proximity. It's later in the evening, closer family and friends are still hanging out.
Yeah, and what's interesting here is how quickly the woods transform from like this natural, maybe adventurous backdrop to something that feels much more primal and unknown, especially when the familiar sounds of, a party start to fade and other sounds emerge from the darkness. That transition is key.
Totally. So it's around 8 p.m., getting dark. The dad goes out to a shed at the far end of the yard near the woods to get some tiki torches. While he's in the shed, he clearly hears steps in the woods, just crunching leaves, branches maybe. Too dark to see anything, but the sound is distinct. Puts him a little on edge maybe. Later on, about 6 kids, including his son, decide they want to play hide and seek in the woods. The parents are like, okay, fine, but tell them, stay close to the tree line, don't go deep. And for about 15 minutes, it's normal kid sounds, laughing, yelling, calling out, coming from just inside the woods.
And then comes that shift you mentioned. The sounds change. They go from playful to deeply wrong. This is where our brains really struggle, right? When we encounter something ambiguous, especially if it feels threatening, we try to label it animal, human, something else. That description later of a sound being like a bizarre salad of human and animal, that points to something truly disturbing because it defies our categories. That's the fear of the unknown, the unidentifiable.
Exactly what happens. After those 15 minutes of normal sounds, suddenly the kids yelling turns into screams, like concerning sounding screams, real fear. Then the kids come running out of the woods, one after another, just screaming, "There's something in there, there's something in there." So that the dad and his brother, Dom described as the biggest men there, they decide, okay, we got to go check this out. Grab flashlights, head into the woods. They go in pretty deep, following where the kids were, and they start to hear something else. At first they think, okay, maybe an animal. But as they follow the sound, try to get closer, it starts to sound more human-like. And they both get this really intense feeling like they were being watched like dogs, just that prickle on the back of your neck. They stop walking. And then they hear this moaning, angry kind of sound. The description is wild, so human that it was bizarre salad, just weird and unsettling. Then, a few feet ahead of them, a few cracks of the leaves on the ground. They whip their flashlights over it, and they see it, or rather, they see someone or something behind the tree, just a shape, an impression. And the moment the light hits it, that weird moaning sound just stops. Dead silence.
Wow, that's pure nightmare fuel. The ambiguity, the feeling of being watched, the unidentifiable sound, and then seeing something slip away. The lack of clear identification here is what makes it so profoundly disturbing, I think. It leaves open this terrifying possibility of things existing just outside our understanding, potentially predatory things. It reminds you there are still real mysteries out there.
For sure. So Dom, maybe trying to be brave or figure it out, calls out like, "Hello," or something. And the response, the scream, so loud, so blood-curdling, so inhuman, filled the air, just ripped through the woods. The dad and Dom, they don't wait. They turn and bolt back towards the house, waving frantically at everyone still outside. "Get inside now, Uncle." They call the sheriff department. The official take is, probably a wild animal, a fox, a coyote maybe making a weird noise. But the parents, the witnesses, they wanted to insist it was a human, but we honestly couldn't. It just didn't fit. To this day, they have no idea who or what we saw and heard in those woods, but they're absolutely convinced it was definitely stalking us and the kids. And that scream, it just didn't sound human. The mystery, the fear, it just hangs there. So, okay, 3 stories, all starting with birthdays, celebrations, supposed safety, and all veering sharply into terror, leaving this really unsettling feeling behind. When you put them together, you see these threads, right? This unexpected intrusion, whether it's a human or something else. This sense of vulnerability suddenly cracking open in places we think are safe. Our home, a public place, our own backyard.
Exactly. I mean, these stories really hammer home how fragile our sense of security can be, how easily those boundaries, physical or psychological, can be breached. And danger, it seems, can pop up in the most unexpected ways. A party guest, a stranger offering candy, an unknown presence in the woods. The real takeaway, I think, the aha moment, if you will, is realizing that security is often just a feeling, a perception. It's not necessarily a guarantee, and these stories really challenge that perception head on.
Yeah, it's that stark contrast, isn't it? Joy flipping instantly to fear.
Yeah.
That's what makes these moments stick with you because they fundamentally challenge how you thought the world worked, how safe you thought you were. And sometimes, maybe the most disturbing part is when there aren't answers, when things remain unexplained. That uncertainty can be terrifying in itself.
It definitely leaves you with a provocative thought, doesn't it? It kind of raises this important question for all of us, living in a world where these things, these intrusions, these unknowns clearly happen. How do we balance that very human need we have for connection, for celebration, for community, with being aware, truly aware of the vulnerabilities that might just be lurking right under the surface? It's not easy.
It really isn't. Well, we hope these accounts have given you something profound to think about, maybe made you reconsider things just a little. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the unsettling side of celebrations.